Excuse me, where did you get that beautiful pendant?
It was a gift from my mother.
It reminds me of so many things.
Imagine serving a customer who suddenly stares at your necklace like it's a ghost from his past, then collapses into tears. That's what happened when Rowan Belford walked into a roadside cafe and saw a compass he believed only 2 people in the world ever owned, and one of them vanished. People say life can flip in a single second, but most of us never truly believe it until it happens right in front of us. That's exactly what unfolded inside a roadside cafe off Highway 101 in California, the kind of place travelers stop at because they're hungry, tired, or just need 10 quiet minutes to breathe. Nothing about that afternoon looked special, but what happened at table 6 shifted 2 entire lives in a way no one inside that cafe would ever forget. Rowan Belford walked in slowly, steadying himself with one hand on the back of a chair as he made his way toward an open booth. At 84, he carried himself like someone who'd spent a lifetime giving orders, solving problems, and building the kind of transportation empire people read about in business magazines. But beneath that polished coat and that careful posture was a man carrying more weight than anyone could see. He didn't look intimidating. He didn't look fragile, either. He looked like someone trying to keep the pieces of himself in place. Keira Donnelly noticed this the moment he took off his coat. She wasn't judging him. She was exhausted and running on 3 hours of sleep, but she always made room for kindness. Her ponytail was falling apart, one apron string was tied tighter than the other, and she'd been moving non-stop since morning. Even so, her smile looked genuine when she stepped up to greet him. "Afternoon, sir. You doing okay today?" Rowan's eyes lifted, almost surprised by how warm her tone was. "I've had better days," he said with a small laugh, "but tea might help." His voice was soft, almost careful, as if he didn't want to disturb anything around him. Keira poured his tea, set it down gently, asked what he wanted for lunch. Normal gestures, nothing dramatic, nothing emotional. She didn't know what that necklace around her neck meant yet, because to her, it was just something her mother had left behind when she passed away. A simple brass compass, chipped on one side, weighing next to nothing. Rowan noticed it immediately. It happened so fast, Keira didn't even catch the shift at first. One moment, Rowan was thanking her for the tea, speaking clearly, politely. The next, his voice simply stopped. His gaze dropped to her chest, not in a disrespectful way, but with the expression of someone recognizing something impossible. His hand, resting on the table, trembled. Where did you get that?" His words came out thin, shaky, and far too emotional for such a simple question. Keira glanced down. "Oh, this old thing? It was my mom's. She said it meant something important to her, but she never explained what." Rowan swallowed hard and stared at the tiny compass, like it was the only thing left keeping him upright. He whispered, "There were only 2. "2 what?" she asked, confused, leaning in slightly. He looked at her with eyes already starting to fill. "Compasses. I designed that for my granddaughter when she was little. I never made more. I didn't think I'd ever see one outside my home again." Keira blinked, unsure if this was grief, shock, or something she had no words for. She lowered the pot she'd been holding and pulled up the chair beside him. "Sir, are you all right?" "No," he whispered. "I truly don't think I am." The cafe had the usual noises, chairs dragging, plates landing on tables, a bit of conversation from the booth near the window, but it all seemed to fade the moment Rowan pressed both hands against his face. His shoulders shook. Tears pushed through the cracks of decades of silence. He wasn't a billionaire then. He wasn't a CEO. He wasn't a powerful man with a famous last name. He was a grandfather who'd lost someone and never found her again. Keira didn't know what to do. She wasn't used to comforting strangers, especially not older ones who looked like they were unraveling right in front of her. She reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away if he wanted to. But he didn't move. When her fingers touched his forearm, he let out a sound that wasn't quite a sob, but carried the weight of one. And then, while half the cafe watched, he stood up and wrapped his arms around her like she was the last familiar person on earth. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't dramatic. It was human. Pure, unfiltered human pain. Keira held him, confused and shaken, but still steady. When he pulled back, he wiped his face and whispered, "Please, sit with me. I need to understand how you have that necklace." She didn't hesitate. She pulled out the chair and sat down across from him. But neither of them knew that this moment was only the beginning of a truth waiting to break open. Keira had seen customers cry before, but never like this. Some people got emotional over bad news on the phone. Others vented about long days, breakups, lost jobs. But she'd never watched someone completely crumble because of a small necklace on a thin chain. She sat across from Rowan, trying to stay calm even though her heart was thudding in her chest. The cafe around them kept moving, forks clinking, orders being shouted, people chatting. But it all felt distant now, like the room was holding its breath. Rowan pressed a napkin to his face, but it didn't help much. His emotions weren't slowing down. "I'm sorry," he whispered, rubbing his forehead. "I haven't reacted like this in I don't know how long." "It's okay," Keira said gently. "You're not bothering anybody. I just want to make sure you're all right." He let out a shaky breath. "I don't know if I am." That answer carried something deeper than she expected. Not panic, not confusion. Something older, heavier, and rooted in the kind of grief people don't talk about unless they're forced to. Rowan took a moment, breathing through another wave of emotion, then looked straight at her necklace again. Can you tell me everything you know about it?" he asked. "Even if you think it's not important." Keira wrapped her fingers around the compass, feeling its familiar coolness. She'd worn it for years, without thinking twice, like a tiny routine she never questioned. "My mother gave it to me when I was 14, she said. She told me it meant a lot to her, but she didn't explain why. She said it came from a woman who wanted it passed down to the daughter who would understand its meaning someday. I never understood what that meant." Rowan's posture shifted, like her words were pulling old memories out of places he'd spent years avoiding. "What was your mother's name?" he asked quietly. "Sylvie Donnelly." He repeated it under his breath. "Sylvie Donnelly. I don't recognize it." "You wouldn't," Keira said. She kept to herself, always worked small jobs, moved around a lot. We lived in Santa Rosa for most of my childhood, but she never talked about her life before I was born. Rowan leaned back, trying to fit this piece into a puzzle he hadn't touched in over 40 years. "My daughter." He stopped, corrected himself. "My only child. Her name was Hollis. She left home at 19 after a fight we never recovered from. I tried to find her, but she made it clear she didn't want to be found. She had a daughter 2 years later, my granddaughter." Keira didn't interrupt. She just listened, quietly, carefully. "I had a compass made for her," Rowan continued. 2 of them, to be exact. A matching set, one for her, one for Hollis. They were supposed to be symbols of new beginnings. I told myself it meant something profound, but truthfully, I just wanted her to know she belonged somewhere. Keira's voice softened. "And you haven't seen her since?" "No," he said. "I didn't even get the chance to know her name." The silence around them wasn't uncomfortable. It was thick with realization. Keira sat forward. "My mom never told me who gave it to her, only that the woman insisted she take it. She said the woman seemed scared and calm at the same time, and like she wanted to say more, but didn't." That description made Rowan tense. Did she ever describe what the woman looked like? Keira thought for a moment. Only once. She said the woman looked tired in a way she'd never seen before, like she'd been carrying something for too long. Rowan let out a breath that shook his shoulders. He covered his face again, but this time it wasn't just grief. It was recognition. Pain that had a shape, a memory, a timeline. Keira reached across the table. "Maybe I'm wrong," she said gently, "but it sounds like the woman who gave this to my mom could have been your daughter." Rowan didn't speak right away. He was wrestling with the possibility, turning it over in his mind, letting it hit him from angles he hadn't prepared for. "She wouldn't have given it away," he whispered. "Not unless something was terribly wrong." "People do things for reasons we don't always understand," Keira replied softly. "My mom never said the woman was in danger, just that she left in a hurry, like she had somewhere she needed to be." Rowan lifted his eyes to hers, and for the first time since the breakdown, something steadier appeared behind them. Fear, yes, but clarity too. "If Hollis gave your mother that compass," he said, "it means she trusted her, Or she was trying to protect something. Keira held the compass tighter. Or someone. He exhaled sharply, the meaning hitting them both at the same time. That granddaughter, Keira murmured. The one you never met. Rowan didn't need to finish the sentence. One truth was already sitting between them. But neither of them knew the story was about to pull them deeper into a connection that went far beyond a necklace. Keira didn't usually sit with customers on the clock, but this wasn't the kind of moment you walk away from. The air around the table felt charged, like something long buried was pushing its way upward, whether they were ready or not. Rowan reached for his tea with both hands, steadying himself as if the warmth might help him stay grounded. I haven't spoken her name out loud in years, he admitted quietly. Hollis, my daughter. She was stubborn, fire-hearted, and quicker to run from pain than face it. I spent so long trying to understand her, and by the time I realized what I'd done wrong, she'd already shut every door behind her. Keira watched him closely. What happened between you two? He rubbed the bridge of his nose. A fight that should never have gotten that big. I tried to control her choices. She pushed back harder. She told me she was tired of living by my rules, tired of the pressure, tired of feeling like she was never good enough for my world. He paused, staring at the table like the memory was replaying on it. She left that night with one suitcase. I thought she'd cool off and come back. She never did. Keira took a breath, letting the weight of his words settle. People leave for all kinds of reasons. Sometimes it's not about us. Sometimes they're trying to save themselves. Rowan lifted his eyes. I know that now. But back then, I kept convincing myself I could fix it with time, with effort, with money. I sent people to check on her, tried reaching out through letters, anything that didn't require me to actually face her. I know how that sounds. It sounds like someone who didn't know how to express hurt, Keira replied softly. Some people fight, some people run, some shut down. Maybe she was all three. Rowan looked at her, struck by how simple and honest her words were. No sugarcoating, no judgment, just truth. He let out a slow breath. I didn't know she had a child until years later. Her partner contacted me after the baby was born. I tried to meet them. Every attempt fell apart. Did she cut contact on purpose? Yes, Rowan said. I think she believed distance was safer. Maybe for her, maybe for the baby, maybe both. Keira held the compass between her fingers again, running her thumb over the chipped enamel. My mom found me on her doorstep when I was 8 months old. She never said who left me there. She only said a woman knocked, handed me over carefully, and asked her to take care of me. Then she disappeared into the night. Rowan leaned forward, his expression tight. Did your mother ever describe the woman? Only vaguely, Keira said. She said the woman looked scared, not of my mom, but of something behind her, like she was running from something that wouldn't stop. That detail made Rowan stiffen. Hollis was unpredictable, but she wasn't careless. If she was scared, something serious must have been happening. Keira's fingers loosened around the compass. If she left me with my mom, she must have trusted her. Or she was trying to protect you, Rowan said. Protect her daughter. Keira felt her breath hitch. We're not saying I'm not saying anything for certain, Rowan interrupted gently. But the compass, the timeline, the secrecy, it all aligns too closely to ignore. She looked at him, and for the first time, something inside her shifted. Not panic, not certainty, but an opening, a space where possibility could grow. I always wondered why my mom never wanted to talk about that night, Keira said. She kept everything bottled up. She carried guilt I couldn't understand. Maybe it wasn't hers. Maybe it belonged to someone else entirely. Rowan's gaze softened. When did your mother pass? 3 years ago. I'm sorry, he said, and he meant it. Thanks, she replied. I've made peace with the fact that some answers died with her, but maybe not all of them. Rowan leaned back slowly, his breathing steadied. His eyes, still red from crying earlier, carried a new tension now, an alertness, a recognition that he hadn't walked into that cafe by chance. Something in him, some small instinctive pull, had led him right to her. Can I ask you something? He said. Sure. Have you ever wondered about your biological family? Every day, Keira answered, but I stopped looking. Records were messy, no names, no clear starting point. Eventually, I told myself some stories just aren't meant to be solved. Rowan reached across the table, his voice almost a whisper. Maybe this one is. Keira didn't speak for a moment. She stared at him, then at the compass, then back at him again. Something inside her, a quiet part she never let speak, leaned forward. My mom always told me the compass was a sign, she murmured. She said it would lead me somewhere important. Rowan's voice cracked. Maybe it just did. They sat there, two strangers who suddenly felt anything but. But the past wasn't done with them yet, not by a long shot. The lunch rush had slowed by now, but neither Rowan nor Keira noticed. Their world had narrowed to that small table, that necklace, those buried memories shaking themselves loose like dust falling from an attic box. Keira shifted in her seat, ready to stand if her manager called for her, but oddly enough, no one interrupted them. Maybe the staff sensed something important happening. Maybe the universe was giving them room. Rowan set his teacup down, though he hadn't taken a sip since it arrived. There's something I should tell you, he said. Something I've never said to anyone outside my family. Keira leaned in a bit, unsure what was coming, but instinctively ready for it. My daughter didn't leave because of one fight, he said. That night was just the breaking point. She'd been withdrawing for months. I thought it was rebellion. But she was scared, Keira. Scared of people who were getting too close to her life. People she didn't trust. What kind of people? Keira asked. Rowan hesitated. Men who claimed to be interested in her work. Investors who wanted to mentor her. But their attention felt wrong. She said they followed her car once. I didn't believe her at first. Keira's brow knit. Why didn't you? Because I'd convinced myself she exaggerated things to get my attention. He let out a breath. I spent so much time running a company that I treated her feelings like they were roadblocks. Keira didn't try to comfort him with a quick answer. Instead, she asked, did anything ever happen to her? Something that made her leave for good? Yes, Rowan said. She got a job offer from a man who seemed genuinely interested in her design work. She trusted him. I didn't see the danger until it was too late. He paused, letting the memory settle before he continued. He tried to control her. When she refused to sign an exclusive contract, he threatened her. She didn't tell me until the night she left. She said she couldn't stay where people with power felt entitled to her life. He rubbed his forehead. I didn't take it seriously. I told her she was overreacting. Keira felt her chest tighten. She wasn't. No, Rowan said, and by the time I understood that, she was already gone. He looked down at his hands, the knuckles pale and tense. I hired a private investigator a year later. They found traces of her life. Pay stubs, a rental agreement in Oregon, a medical bill from a clinic in California. Then silence. Total silence. Like she vanished. Keira felt the weight of every word. My mom never talked about running from anyone, she said slowly. But she did move us around a lot when I was little. Every few months. New apartments, new towns. She always said she was protecting me, but I didn't understand from what. Rowan's eyes lifted. Where did you live before Santa Rosa? Redding. Before that, Eureka. Before that, I don't know if I remember everything. I was too young. He seemed to think carefully before speaking again. Those are places my investigator checked. They're not major cities. People pass through them without leaving records. If your mother met my daughter anywhere, it could have been along that northern route. Do you think they knew each other? Keira asked. I think Hollis trusted very few people, Rowan replied. So if she placed her daughter in someone's arms, it had to be someone who made her feel safe. Keira felt her throat tighten. I've spent my whole life wondering if my mom kept secrets to protect me, or because the truth was too painful to relive. Sometimes it's both, Rowan said gently. Keira looked down at the compass again, her fingers tracing the chipped edge. She used to hold it when she thought I wasn't watching, like it pulled her into a memory she couldn't let go of. Rowan reached across the table slightly. May I? He asked. She lifted the compass chain over her head and placed it in his palm. His hand shook as he held it, not from age, but from recognition, from sorrow, from hope that scared him. My granddaughter's compass, he whispered. I remember every scratch, every shape of the enamel. I remember the artist who helped me design it. I remember Hollis laughing when she saw how small it was, saying it looked more symbolic than useful. He gave a weak smile. That's what made it perfect. Keira swallowed hard, her chest growing tight. Do you want to keep it? Rowan shook his head instantly. No, it's yours. Your mother gave it to you. She honored someone's request. I won't undo that. But if it belonged to your granddaughter... He lifted his eyes to hers. If it belonged to your mother first, and then to you, there's a reason. I won't rewrite that. Keira wasn't used to seeing a powerful man choose humility. It made everything feel even more real. She took the compass back and held it gently. I don't know if I'm connected to your family, but something about this feels significant. It is, Rowan said quietly. Whether or not we have blood between us, this moment is part of something bigger than either of us expected. Keira studied him for a moment. What do we do now? He sat back and exhaled. We keep talking. We keep comparing details. We follow what we know. But neither of them realized how close they already were to the truth they'd both been searching for. The cafe had grown quieter, but the weight of what Rowan and Keira were digging through only felt heavier. Their conversation wasn't casual anymore. It carried purpose. It carried history. And for the first time, it carried the unmistakable pull of two stories clicking into place after decades of sitting separate. Rowan sat forward, elbows on the table, the menu pushed aside like it no longer belonged in this moment. Let's walk through this carefully, he said. Not emotionally, just facts. Keira nodded. Okay. You said your mother moved frequently, he continued. Did she ever say why? She always told me she took jobs wherever she could find them, Keira said. Cleaning, working in bakeries, small stores, seasonal places. She said it was to keep us fed. She paused, then added, but there were days she packed the car fast. Too fast. Like she'd heard something that scared her. Rowan's expression tightened. Did she ever mention anyone following her? No. She didn't like to share fears. She believed talking about danger made it stronger. Rowan's breath caught at that. That sounds like something Hollis used to say. She said speaking things out loud gave them a presence. Keira tilted her head. Your daughter said that? Yes. She hated discussing anything that frightened her. She thought it invited more trouble. Keira felt a slow prickle in her chest. Not fear, recognition. My mom believed the same thing. She'd checked the locks 3 times. She never opened the door unless she looked through the window first, even when things seemed normal. Rowan swallowed. Hollis started locking every door when she was 21. That was the year she told me someone from her past had reappeared, a man who didn't take rejection well. What happened to him? He disappeared after she left the city. She never brought him up again. Keira sat back, her heart beating faster. If your daughter was running from someone, and my mom was running too, it makes sense they crossed paths. Rowan took his time responding. He wasn't rushing the thought. He was weighing it, testing its shape, its logic. When my investigator looked into Hollis's movements, the trail went cold around Mendocino County. You said you and your mother lived in Eureka for a time? About 6 months, Keira said. She worked at a motel off the highway. I remember the sign, the faded red paint. She used to say it was the only place that needed someone immediately. Rowan exhaled slowly. My investigator found a motel record, not under her name, but under an alias. The dates line up with your age. Keira blinked. What alias? Harriet Barron. Keira stared at him, stunned. My mom used that last name once, when she signed me up for preschool in Crescent City. Donnelly was her legal name, but she didn't want people finding us. She said using Barron kept me safe. Rowan's voice dropped to a whisper. Barron was my grandmother's maiden name. Hollis used it when she didn't want to be traced. The silence that followed didn't feel empty. It felt like the kind of silence that comes right before a door swings open, slowly, quietly, but undeniably. Keira felt something shift inside her. You're saying my mom and your daughter might have been traveling together? It's possible, Rowan said carefully. They may have protected each other, they may have been friends, or Hollis may have trusted your mother enough to ask her for help. He paused, eyes softening, especially if she'd given birth recently. Keira's breath hitched. My mom never talked about taking care of a baby before me. She wouldn't have if she promised to keep someone safe, Rowan said. Hollis didn't trust me enough to bring her problems to my door, but she trusted someone who wasn't tied to my world. Keira looked down, processing. My mom always said someone handed me to her, a woman she'd never met before. She said the woman held me like I was the most important thing she had left. Rowan brought a hand to his mouth. His eyes shimmered again, not from shock this time, but from the slow realization that the story he'd feared was forever lost might still have pieces left in the world. What else did she tell you about that night? He asked. Keira hesitated. Not much, but she did say the woman kept looking over her shoulder like she expected someone to show up, and she left fast. Too fast for my mom to ask questions. Rowan rested his palm flat against the table. If that woman was Hollis, she must have believed she was out of time. Kira's voice lowered. Do you think she was running from that man again? Maybe, Rowan said, or from something else entirely. Keira took a slow breath, letting the idea settle, not because she accepted it fully, but because it suddenly felt possible in ways she had never imagined. So what does that make me? She whispered. The granddaughter you never found? Rowan didn't answer, not because he doubted the possibility, but because he was too close to hope, and that terrified him. Instead, he said, We don't know. Not yet. But we're closer than I ever thought I'd get. Keira held the compass gently in her palm, the chipped enamel glinting faintly under the cafe lights. My mom always said this compass would point me towards something important, she murmured. I used to think she meant a dream or a goal, but maybe she meant a person. Rowan's voice shook. Maybe she meant me. The space between them felt electric now, not dramatic, not magical, but real, human, heavy with possibility. But they were about to face the hardest part, the truth neither of them knew how to chase. For a moment, neither Rowan nor Keira spoke. The air settled around them like the pause between waves, the quiet stretch where you know something bigger is rolling toward you, but you're not sure how hard it will hit. Keira kept turning the compass in her hand, the chipped edge catching the light each time. Rowan watched her closely, searching her face the way someone might study a photograph from decades ago, trying to find familiar lines. He cleared his throat. There's one thing that's always haunted me, he said, something I never told anyone outside my home. After my daughter left, I kept receiving letters for a while. Not from her. She never wrote directly, but from someone who knew her. What kind of letters? Keira asked. Short ones, he replied. Just enough to let me know she was alive. Nothing more, no address, no signature. Only small hints that she was moving constantly. Whoever wrote them wanted me to stop looking. Keira leaned forward slightly. Did they ever mention a child? Only once, Rowan said. One letter said, She's not alone anymore. She's safe, but don't come. I didn't know if that meant a partner, a friend, or a baby, but after that, the letters stopped. Keira felt her throat tighten. Do you still have them? I kept every one, Rowan said. I couldn't bring myself to throw away the only connection I had left. She let that sink in. Do you think the person writing them was my mom? I can't be sure, he said, but it makes sense. If Hollis trusted her enough to leave you in her care, it's possible she trusted her to send those updates too. Keira exhaled slowly. My mom never mentioned anything about writing letters for someone, but she always seemed protective, even when I was older, like she thought the past could still reach us. Rowan hesitated before asking, Did she ever tell you why she raised you alone? No, Keira answered. She said some stories don't begin the way people expect. She told me she chose me, but she never explained the circumstances. I always assumed I was part of someone else's story long before I became part of hers. Rowan looked down at his hands. Hollis used to say things like that. She believed people entered each other's lives when the world needed it. Keira blinked. My mom used to say the same. Their eyes met in a way that made the room feel smaller again. Rowan continued. If your mother took you in as a baby, she must have cared deeply. My daughter wouldn't have trusted just anyone. She had been hurt before. She was cautious. Keira nodded slowly. My mom wasn't wealthy or connected. She worked hard just to get by, but she had a calmness about her, even when things were tough. People told her she had a way of making strangers feel safe. That would have drawn Hollis to her, Rowan said gently. My daughter always looked for people who felt real, people without an agenda. Keira considered that for a moment. She must have been desperate, though, dropping a baby off with someone she barely knew. Or, Rowan countered carefully, she might have spent more time with your mother than you think. They could have formed a bond you were too young to witness. Keira felt something flutter deep in her chest, fear mixed with the faintest spark of understanding. So what happened to her? What happened to Hollis after she left me? Rowan's eyes darkened with something old, raw. I don't know. That's what keeps me awake at night. I don't know if she found safety, if she started over, or if her past caught up with her. He paused. I don't know if she's still alive. Keira didn't speak at first. She let the honesty land gently but firmly, the way truth often does when someone finally admits what they've avoided. What if she wanted you to find me? Keira asked softly. Not through a search, but naturally, through something she left behind. He stared at the compass in her hand, as if it were speaking directly to him. If she did, I failed her for decades. No, Keira said. You didn't fail her. Sometimes the world hides things until the timing is right. Rowan's voice cracked. And now it finally is. Maybe, she whispered. Their silence wasn't cold. It wasn't avoidance. It was the kind of silence people share when they're standing at the doorway of a truth neither is sure how to open. Keira leaned back, letting her shoulders settle. There's something I've never told anyone, she said. Not because it was secret, but because it felt odd. Rowan waited patiently. When I was little, I used to have dreams, repeated ones. I'd see a woman holding me, whispering something I couldn't understand. My mom always said dreams are memories that haven't fully formed. Rowan listened carefully, eyes softening. Do you remember what the woman looked like? Not clearly, Keira admitted. Just the feeling of her arms around me. She held me gently, like she'd been waiting her whole life to. Rowan closed his eyes for a second. That sounds like Hollis. Keira let the moment settle, then asked the question she'd been drifting around for the last hour. What if I really am your granddaughter? Rowan didn't answer immediately. His breathing shifted, uneven and cautious. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. If you are, then this compass didn't just bring us together. It brought us back to a story we weren't supposed to lose. Keira swallowed. So what now? Rowan drew in a slow breath. Now we face the truth, whatever it is. But neither of them knew how close the truth actually was, and how deeply it would change them both. For the first time since their conversation began, Rowan wasn't looking at the compass. He was looking at Keira with the kind of attention only someone who has spent years searching can give. Not searching rooms or files or databases, searching faces, searching for traits, gestures, tiny sparks of familiarity. Keira shifted under that gaze without discomfort. It felt natural, almost like meeting someone who somehow already knew you before either of you said a word. Rowan exhaled shakily. There's something about you, he murmured. Something in your expression, your voice, even the way you think. It reminds me of her. Keira didn't smile, but her eyes softened. I don't want to assume anything. I know how big this is for you. It's big for both of us, he said quietly. You've lived a life full of questions. I've lived one full of regret. She took a moment before answering. What are you regretting right now? He looked down for a second, rubbing his thumb across the edge of the table. That I didn't fight harder for her. That I didn't follow my instincts. That fear stopped me from trying again when she shut the door. His voice lowered. And if you are her daughter, I regret not being there for you either. Keira let that sink in. No defense, no excuses. He wasn't protecting himself. He was opening a wound he'd carried for decades. You didn't know, she said softly, and my mom made sure no one could take me away from her. Whatever she was protecting me from, it must have been serious. Rowan nodded. She was brave then, braver than I ever gave her credit for. She was, Keira said, the memory warming her voice. She didn't have much, but she never made me feel unsafe. She used to tell me love wasn't about blood. It was about choice. Rowan swallowed hard. Hollis used to say the same. She believed you could build your own family if the one you were born into didn't fit. Keira looked down at the compass again, letting her thumb rest in the little groove worn into the enamel. Maybe that's why she left you with my mom. Or maybe she left me with someone she trusted because she didn't want her troubles to follow me. Rowan's jaw tightened, not with anger, but with the pressure of everything he wished he could rewrite. I wish she had told me. I wish she let me help. You did what you knew how to do, Keira said. She did the same. Rowan leaned back, the exhaustion of the afternoon finally catching up to his body, but emotionally, he seemed more awake than at any moment before. There's a way we can find out the truth, he said gently. A DNA test. It would settle this completely. Keira nodded slowly. I figured you'd suggest that. Only if you're open to it, Rowan added quickly. This isn't something I want to pressure you into. Your life is your own, and I don't want to force you into my world just because I'm desperate for answers. Keira met his eyes steadily. I'm not afraid of the truth. I just don't want to lose what I already have by chasing something that might not be real. You won't lose anything, Rowan said. At least not from me. She studied him, weighing that promise. You said earlier that the letters stopped. Do you think something happened to her after that? I wish I didn't, he said. But silence usually means someone was running too fast to leave traces, or they no longer had the chance to. Kira's chest tightened. So if I am your granddaughter, then she might be gone. His voice softened. If she is gone, then you are the only piece of her I have left. Keira looked away for a moment, letting those words land without letting them crush her. She had spent her whole life with no threads to pull, no clues, no faces to imagine. Now she had a man sitting across from her who carried the missing chapters of her story. What would you want from me, she asked quietly, if the test says we're family? Rowan didn't hesitate. Nothing. I wouldn't ask you to change your name or your life or your routines. I would only ask for a chance to know you. To make up for what I couldn't give your mother. Kira's lips parted slightly, not in surprise, but in something more delicate. Something like hope creeping in from the edges. I think, she said slowly, that I might want that too. Even if we're wrong, even if we're only connected by this moment. Rowan let out a breath that trembled. Then no matter how this turns out, meeting you is one of the most important things that has happened to me. They sat there quietly, not strangers anymore, not family yet, but something in between. Two lives crossing at a time when both needed clarity more than they realized. Keira stood first. You want to meet again, right? Rowan rose with a softness unusual for a man his age. More than anything. She held the compass in her fist for a moment, then let it fall back against her chest. Then let's figure this out. Together. Rowan placed a careful hand over his heart. The gesture wasn't dramatic. It wasn't staged. It was simple and sincere. I would be honored, he said. They walked to the door, side by side, like people stepping into a new chapter neither had planned for. And as they reached the parking lot, the late afternoon sun hit the compass just right, casting a brief glimmer across both of them, almost like a quiet signal from a woman who had vanished but still wanted her story to be found. Keira looked at Rowan. Whatever this means, I'm ready. So am I, he said. Their next steps weren't certain. Their past wasn't fully known, but something undeniable connected them now. A chance to rebuild a story that had been broken long before they ever met. Because sometimes life doesn't give you perfect answers. Sometimes it gives you people. And sometimes that's enough to start healing what you thought would stay broken forever. Here's the truth this story leaves behind. Family isn't only the people who raise you or share your blood. Sometimes it's the ones who show up when your story finally leads them to your door. Before you go, make sure you subscribe for more stories like this, ones that remind us that every life has a hidden chapter waiting to be found.